A glowing orb slowly emerged above Wang Lin's right hand, the crystallized essence of the memory inheritance. He stared at it in silence for a moment, then suddenly flung it forward. The orb shot straight toward Tuo Senior for you. Tuo Sen, half kneeling on the ground, his chest a mangled mess of blood and flesh, was in the middle of healing when he froze, stunned. He caught the very thing he had chased all the way to the outer realm. A karmic relic he had craved with madness, the memory inheritance. His body trembled uncontrollably. He had waited for this moment for a very, very long time. From the day a sliver of his demonic thought had been sealed away for countless millennia, he had watched helplessly as the memory inheritance was taken by Wang Lin. The rage and hatred that consumed him were boundless. To reclaim the memory inheritance, he risked everything, breaking through his seal, seizing the body of Tuo Sen, and beginning his arduous quest. The journey had been filled with bitterness. He had imagined, time and again, the day he would rip the memory from Wang Lin, perfecting his own inheritance, purging every flaw. Yet never had he expected that the very thing he had longed for with such desperation would one day be returned by Wang Lin, voluntarily. Holding the orb of memory in his hands, Tuo Sen fell silent. After a long pause, he looked up at Wang Lin with a complex gaze. Thank you. In his entire life, Tuo Sen had never uttered those words. The concept didn't exist in his mind. No one had ever deserved his thanks. To him, there was never a need to thank anyone. His madness, his pride, were ingrained in his bones. The inheritance of Tuo Sen is now complete. But whether he'll awaken, whether you'll vanish, I don't know. Wang Lin had taken only a portion of the Daogu inheritance. But even that portion made the inheritance unique. No one else could access it. If, one day, Wang Lin's cultivation reached the point where he could bear more, he would return to continue the legacy. With those parting words, Wang Lin raised his right hand and waved. From a distance, Ling Dong and Zhou Jin, still stunned by what they had just witnessed, were instantly drawn into the celestial emperor furnace. Wang Lin also stored the ancient demon corpse into his storage dimension. He collected everything, ancient breath leaf, blood sword, and more, then stepped forward. With part of the Daogu memory now his, Wang Lin understood this first layer of the ancient tomb far better than anyone else. As he stepped forward, ripples appeared beneath his feet, and his figure began to fade from the palace. But just then, Wang Lin suddenly paused. With a soft murmur, he turned around and looked toward the distant void. From the northern part of the palace, a ripple suddenly spread through the emptiness. It expanded rapidly, transforming into a vast, illusory, great net. A wave of pressure surged from within, and then, a massive shadow emerged behind the net. From outside, one could not see within the net. But from inside the palace, Wang Lin could see it clearly. Behind the illusory great net loomed a colossal black shadow. It was the moon-gazing beast. Perched on its head were two cultivators, Ji Xiantian and Wu Dongshan. The two of them, alert and cautious, vigilantly scanned their surroundings, prepared for any unexpected threat. With the help of the moon-gazing beast, they had bypassed the burial platform, just as Tuo Sen had, and located this palace. They were attempting to force their way inside. But the restrictions guarding the palace were incredibly powerful. According to their analysis, even the moon-gazing beast would take a long time to break through them. Though they were anxious, they had no choice but to wait in frustration. A sharp glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes, followed by a cold smirk. He took a step forward, appearing instantly outside the illusory great net. Raising his right hand, he suddenly tore at the net. With a thunderous sound, a massive rift opened in the illusory great net. Ji Xiantian and Wu Dongshan were stunned. Before they could make sense of what had happened, a fierce wind howled from the rift, slamming into them. The power contained in that wind was irresistible. Blood sprayed from their mouths as they were swept away before they could even glimpse Wang Lin's figure. In the next instant, still bleeding, they were sucked. Luotian should still be inside the moon-gazing beast. Wang Lin had never forgotten the debt he owed to Luotian. After retrieving the beast, he let out a quiet sigh and stepped forward, his figure vanishing from sight. The entire palace, now in ruins, was left with only one person. Tuo Senator, he stood in a daze, staring at the memory inheritance in his hand. There was no joy in his heart, only hesitation and confusion. The inheritance he had dreamed of all his life was finally within reach, and yet he didn't know whether what he had been searching for all along was a blessing or a mistake. 2C. From the moment I was born, I knew I was created from a sliver of your demonic thought. But this memory, is it real or is it false? Did you truly perish from a failed ink flow soul division? Or am I simply a part of that technique? Am I Tuo Sen, or 2C himself? The confusion in Tuo Sen's eyes deepened. He silently sank to one knee, lost in thought, as though he had forgotten the passing of time. Within the ancient tomb, after the rift to the ancient star of antiquity had sealed shut, the mist thickened, rolling like a boundless sea. Some cultivators still remained inside. All those who had survived the previous upheaval were powerful cultivators with exceptional willpower. Only through countless clever methods had they evaded death again and again. In truth, these survivors represented the elite of the tribes from the ancient star of antiquity. At that moment, within the 9th map, amidst a sea of turbulent space, Wang Lin's illusory figure gradually solidified. He had distanced himself from the palace and entered a different realm entirely, avoiding the alluring woman among the 8 consorts. Wang Lin no longer held any interest in the other cultivators within the tomb. Many, especially the mystic Tone Tao Venerable, the 9 Heavens Demon Venerable, and several from the Great Wilderness, were unfathomably powerful. Though injured by the roar of power, these beings had survived tens of thousands of years and surely possessed extraordinary divine arts. Unlike the battle with the Palm Sovereign in years past, Wang Lin no longer harbored the delusion of slaughtering them all. That wasn't realistic, nor did it align with his current goals. Besides, the ancient tomb had already been completely sealed by him. These people would remain trapped here indefinitely. That alone was enough. After revealing himself, Wang Lin raised his right hand and grasped at the void. Instantly, the 9th map trembled violently. Waves of distortion rippled through the space in front of him, as if something were being torn open. A massive rift appeared. From within the rift came a thunderous roar. A corner of a vast golden pavilion slowly emerged. The Netherworld Mansion. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed. Through the inherited Tao ancient memories, he had learned the method to retrieve Yimo's Netherworld Mansion from this place. The colossal golden pavilion had 3 windows, and though its doors remained tightly shut, Wang Lin could clearly see 3 figures within, sitting cross-legged. A mighty pressure surged out from the pavilion, sweeping across all directions. The instant the pavilion appeared, every cultivator within the ancient tomb sensed it. Mystic Tone, the 9 Heavens Demon Venerable, and the Great Wilderness Trio sensed it most vividly. Wasting no time, Wang Lin flicked his sleeve the moment the Netherworld Mansion responded to his call. With one sweeping motion, he pulled the pavilion from the rift and stowed it into his storage dimension, then turned and stepped away. His figure vanished instantly. When he reappeared, Wang Lin had arrived outside the sealed zone where the ancient breath leaf was located, in the 5th map. The area remained exactly as he'd left it, completely intact. After a brief glance, Wang Lin waved his right hand, imprinting an ancient breath leaf at the entrance. As it opened, he entered. Everything inside remained unchanged. The vortex hovering just above the ground continued to spin slowly. Standing beside the vortex, Wang Lin paused in silence. With his connection to the tomb, he could clearly sense the residual fluctuations from retrieving the Netherworld Mansion. The surviving cultivators within the tomb were now rapidly converging, and several powerful divine senses had already locked onto him, racing toward his location. With a sneer, Wang Lin stepped into the vortex. The instant his figure disappeared, he reached behind him with one final grasp, and with a thunderous rumble, the entire sealed area vanished without a trace. Wang Lin had taken it with him, along with the vortex itself, both forever erased from the ancient tomb. At the very moment the sealed land disappeared, the 3, Mystic Sound Elder, 9 Heavens Demon Venerable, and the Great Wilderness Cultivator, rushed onto the scene. But they were too late. Before them, there was nothing. At the very moment Wang Lin departed, deep within the palace, Tuo Sen, who had remained silent all this time, seemed to make a decision. Holding the memory inheritance in his hand, He pressed it firmly to his forehead. Within the realm, beneath the Thunder Immortal realm, at the edge of the Luotian star domain, the place where the greedy wolf had once been swept away, a silent rift suddenly tore open in the dazzling starry sky. A white-robed figure stepped out from within. The instant this figure emerged, a world-shaking aura erupted from his body, surging out like a tidal wave, spreading across the entire Luotian star domain. The pressure it carried was immense enough to cause the hearts and spirits of all living beings to tremble. Lu Fuzi was the first to clearly sense it, snapping out of his meditation in shock. It's not the ancient star of antiquity beyond the realm. He's returned to the Luotian within the realm. Come home. The white-robed figure outside the rift murmured, a long-lost smile tugging at the corner of his lips after a moment of silence. Farther away, a rainbow streaked across the sky. Countless cultivators, organized in teams under their leaders' commands, dragged a large number of cultivation stars from the vast sea of stars. At the heart of this star array swirled a misty vortex. The fog was thin, allowing a clear view of an elder seated cross-legged within it. Clad in a Taoist robe, the elder exuded a natural authority without anger. Though his complexion was pale, thunder roared within his breathwork, as if his body contained countless bolts of heavenly thunder. This elder was none other than Lu Fuzi, a third-step great power in the Luotian star domain, currently at the early void nirvana stage. As a cultivator of the rare third step, a realm unseen in tens of thousands of years, Lu Fuzi's status was akin to that of a deity. To him, all other cultivators were mere ants. He was the guardian of the Luotian star domain and the true initiator of the great war against the Alliance in years past. In his long life, he had only once been disgraced at the hands of Tuo Sen, from whom he fled in defeat. Afterward, when Tuo Sen reappeared in the Luotian star domain, Lu Fuzi was struck with fear and quickly used secret arts to hide himself, not re-emerging until Tuo Sen had departed. In the years since, though lacking sufficient devotional power, Lu Fuzi had his own unique methods of recovery. The injuries from his clash with Tuo Sen had gradually begun to heal. Everything had returned to a state of calm, until this day. The moment Wang Lin stepped out from the ancient tomb and re-entered the Luotian star domain, Lu Fuzi's eyes suddenly snapped open, a sharp glint flashing within them. Before he could contemplate further, he instantly sensed the sweeping pressure released by Wang Lin, one that blanketed the entire Luotian star domain. His expression changed drastically. He shot to his feet, eyes filled with shock, staring fixedly into the distance, as if his gaze could pierce all things and see Wang Lin in the far-off reaches of space. But before he could get a clear look, a mysterious and immense force crashed into his divine sense, twisting his mind in an instant. His vision blurred, and everything became indistinct. Lu Fuzi's expression changed again, his brows furrowed tightly. Who is this man? I can't make out his features, but something about his divine sense feels familiar. He shouldn't have reached the third step. So why does his presence make my heart pound with dread? He was not alone within the vortex of the star array, for other elders sat cross-legged around him. Lu Fuzi's sudden movement and expression immediately sent a jolt through their hearts. They all rose to their feet, gazing toward him. Had Wang Lin been there, he would have recognized them all at once. They were familiar faces from the past. There was Yin Lazy of the Thunder Immortal Palace, Lai Yunzi, who had once been gravely wounded by Wang Wei, the Yao family ancestor, who had once pursued Wang Lin but was stopped by Qing Shui and later severely injured during the war with the Alliance, and Blood God, who had since recovered. The final elder was Xiang Yundong. This was the very same Xiang Yundong who had once led Wang Lin to the Xiang family ancestral star, where Wang Lin had been subjected to the seventh night art, deceived by the Xiang family patriarch, and had nearly all his vitality drained. Senior, what has happened? Yin Lazy, the one who had followed Lu Fuzi the longest, couldn't help but tremble as he noticed the change in Lu Fuzi's expression. After a brief hesitation, he clasped his fists respectfully and asked. Lai Yunzi and the others stood silent but tense, a sense of foreboding rising in their hearts. To them, Lu Fuzi was a figure of unimaginable might, a legendary being. Nothing in the world should have been able to shake him like this. But before Lu Fuzi could even respond, They too felt it. A sweeping pressure surged in from the distant starry sky, causing their souls to tremble. The pressure was so strong it felt like an overwhelming force smashing directly into their bodies. Their expressions changed in an instant, and their minds quaked. Under the immense pressure, they even felt as though they might collapse. Fortunately, the force disappeared as quickly as it came. But in that single moment, all four of them turned deathly pale. Lu Fuzi's expression darkened, his gaze flickering. He had always been cautious by nature and rarely took risks. However, there was that one time when he ventured recklessly, and in front of Tuo Sen, he ended up suffering a great loss. Not only did he narrowly escape death, but afterward, he had to hide like a beaten dog. Evading Tuo Senator since then, he had been even more cautious. Especially after feeling the overwhelming pressure just now, which made his heart race. He was reluctant to investigate things personally without knowing the full situation. So after a moment of contemplation, Lu Fuzi spoke gravely. "You four, activate the Luotian illusion mirror. Let me see who this person is. Why has he come to my Luotian star domain?" Yin Lazy and the others respectfully acknowledged, their minds vibrating. Without hesitation, they quickly sat cross-legged in the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. With their hands forming identical seals, they cast a divine art that Lu Fuzi had taught them and had them practice diligently, which was now perfected. As their hand seals were completed, a burst of white light rapidly flickered. This light grew brighter and brighter between the four of them, and within moments, it transformed into a white mirror, like a water surface. The white mirror appeared, its surface distorted with rippling waves, slightly blurry. Lu Fuzi's eyes flashed, and with a swift motion, he pointed his index finger, like a sword, directly at the illusionary water surface of the mirror. The waves on the mirror abruptly halted, no longer twisting, and began to calm. Soon, a starry sky emerged within, and a figure dressed in white, with white hair, was seen walking slowly through it. Wang Lin was walking slowly through the Luotian star domain, and everything around him felt familiar. Although Luotian was not part of the alliance, Wang Lin had left many traces here in his past. I wonder if the people from back then are still here. Wang Lin sighed lightly. Then, as he stepped forward, his brow furrowed. He looked up at the brilliant stars in the sky, and a lightning pattern flickered in his right eye. "Get out of the way." As soon as the words left his mouth, the lightning pattern in Wang Lin's right eye roared to life, directly manifesting from his pupil. The starry sky rumbled, and as the lightning pattern descended, it tore through the void. With a loud crash, it vanished without a trace. Back in the room where Lu Fuzi was, just as the illusory mirror formed by Yin Lazy and the others appeared, the moment the white-haired, white-robed figure came into view, Lu Fuzi clearly heard the words spoken by Wang Lin. Amidst the rumbling, the illusory mirror exploded with a tremendous thunderclap. Gigantic bolts of lightning shot out from the mirror, sweeping across the heavens and earth. With a deafening boom, the illusory mirror shattered, breaking into pieces and sending out a massive shockwave. Lu Fuzi's expression changed, and with a flick of his sleeve, he sent the shockwave upwards, towards the sky. Under this motion, the endless thunderbolts soared into the air, creating a constant roar. Lai Yunzi also spat out blood and retreated in horror, his face filled with shock and disbelief. He had encountered Wang Lin most frequently, especially the last time at the Vermilion Bird Sacred Sect, where Wang Lin had forced him into submission. The memory was too vivid. At this moment, the white-haired figure immediately reminded him of Wang Lin, and for a moment, he stood frozen, unable to say a word. "Wang Lin, it's really him." The blood god's face instantly turned pale. His heart raced in shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He never imagined that the insignificant person he once hunted down like an ant, who would have died in his hands had it not been for Qing Shui's intervention, would now possess such terrifying power that shook him to his core. And then there was Xiang Yundong from the Xiang family, whose face went deathly pale. His cultivation was the weakest, and as he retreated, the thunderous aura from Wang Lin's presence permeated his essence spirit, leaving a deep crack in his Dao heart. Wang Lin. Fear flashed in Xiang Yundong's eyes. His mind immediately went to the time when his ancestor had forcefully taken away Wang Lin's life force under the pretext of healing his wife. This had created a deadly enmity between them. At first, the Xiang family had not taken this seriously. Even if Wang Lin's cultivation were higher, facing the entire Xiang family would be like an egg striking a rock. Moreover, with their ancestor in seclusion for thousands of years, few dared to provoke the Xiang family. Senior, what's his cultivation level? Xiang Yundong, suppressing his fear, turned to Lu Fuzi. Lu Fuzi's expression darkened even more. He gazed up at the vast, spreading thunderstorm in the sky, which looked like an ocean of thunder. After a long silence, he spoke slowly. Wang Lin. I remember him now. I saw him in the Alliance, in the ancient god ruins, all those years ago. A flash of complexity crossed his face. Lu Fuzi withdrew his gaze and began walking toward the whirlpool's depths. His cultivation hasn't reached the third step yet, but I'm not confident I can defeat him. As for your matters with him, I won't interfere. Stay here, and you'll be safe. The words entered the hearts of the four, immediately silencing them. Yin Lazy's eyes flickered, his expression gradually calming. He questioned himself, knowing he had not done anything inappropriate towards Wang Lin, and there were even some small favors involved. So, he gradually became more confident, but a trace of shock remained in his heart, never fading. The patriarch of the Zhan family, Lai Yunzi, had an expression that shifted between dark and light. After a long time, he sighed quietly. The most nervous ones were the blood god and Xiang Yundong. After a moment, Xiang Yundong respectfully cupped his fists in the direction of Lu Fuzi's departure, casting a complex glance at the three in front of him. He quickly turned and hurried off. He had to relay this news back to the Xiang family to make full preparations. For an enemy that even the Luotian patriarch Lu Fuzi was unsure of defeating, what could the Xiang family possibly use to fight? The thought made Xiang Yundong's heart panic. As for the blood god, he pondered for a moment before silently sitting down in a cross-legged position. He dared not go out. It seems my return has already attracted much attention. That's fine. A smile appeared on Wang Lin's face as he walked forward. Now, with his cultivation, he had the qualifications to face everything. Even if others knew of his return, it didn't matter to him. Walking leisurely forward, Wang Lin's steps were not fast, but with each step, he crossed countless distances. He looked at the familiar starry sky around him, silently moving on. Far ahead in the starry sky, a group of nearly 100 cultivators, transformed into a long rainbow, surrounded a cultivation star rich in spiritual energy. Lines like threads were thrown from their hands, quickly forming a net that enveloped the massive cultivation star. Among these cultivators, a middle-aged man stood out. His gaze was sharp like lightning, and his cultivation had already reached perfect pure nirvana. His appearance was imposing, especially the gleam in his eyes, with arcs of lightning crackling around him, enhancing his authority. Everyone, pay attention. Channel your energy together. Do not damage the cultivation star. Otherwise, it's minor if the Thunder Immortal Palace blames us, but if it affects Luotian, usually, being scolded and then retreating into closed-door cultivation would be fine. But now, during battle preparations, once the fight starts, if we are punished to cultivate in seclusion, we won't be happy. Zhan brother, I heard the 4 major star domains are all preparing for war, but Yunhai takes the lead. Many of us are confused. Why must we follow Yunhai's orders? Do you have any news about this? Laughter echoed, and with everyone channeling their primal energy, the cultivation star suddenly rumbled, slowly being pulled out of its original orbit. With their combined efforts, it slowly began to drift forward. The middle-aged man, Zhan Konglai, also had a thin thread in his right hand connected to the cultivation star behind him. As they moved forward, he laughed. This matter was settled by Luotian's patriarch Lu Fuzi and the other 3 star domains. I don't know much, but if there is any news, I'll be sure to tell you. No need to rush. At the mention of Lu Fuzi, nearly 100 cultivators' eyes sparkled with fervor. The matters regarding Lu Fuzi, including Zhan Konglai, had only recently come to know about them. In their eyes, Lu Fuzi was the strongest in Luotian, the protector of the Luotian star domain. With Lu Fuzi around, Luotian would never fall. Looking at those around him, Zhang Konglai sighed inwardly. Unlike these people, Zhang Konglai only held respect for Lu Fuzi, not fervor. It seemed his fervor had been taken away by one person long ago. The fervent gazes of those around him, Zhang Konglai had once shared them, once burning with passion. Just one word from that person, and he would do anything for them. His fervor for that person hadn't dissipated with time. On the contrary, it had only grown stronger with clearer understanding of that person's identity. But where is he now? A trace of deep nostalgia flashed in Zhang Konglai's eyes. He often thought about the past, about the scenes from that time. That person had walked through Luotian, affecting not just him, but also Shen Gonghu. Thinking of Shen Gonghu, Zhang Konglai snorted. Over the years, Shen Gonghu had opposed him at every turn, and their battles had grown more intense. The nearly 100 cultivators transformed into a long rainbow, flying forward. The speed increased, dragging the cultivation star along, heading deeper into the starry sky. Moments later, a figure in white slowly walked out from the distance. Upon seeing the group of cultivators, the white-clad figure paused, halting midair and silently observing them. The appearance of the white-clad figure immediately attracted the attention of the cultivators, especially Zhang Konglai, whose expression tightened. He glanced over, but with his cultivation, he couldn't clearly see the figure's face. Something's off. Everyone, be cautious. Zhang Konglai took a step forward, moving to the front, his divine sense spreading out. The two sides were getting closer, yet the man in white still showed no sign of action, simply standing there calmly, watching as the group of cultivators passed by him in a flash. No one could see the face of the man in white. It was as though any gaze directed at him would distort on its own, as if his presence were a vortex or black hole that could devour everything. It wasn't until nearly 100 cultivators pulled the cultivation star past the man in white that everyone let out a slight sigh of relief. This person's cultivation is definitely not simple. From his appearance, he's probably not from our Luotian, Zhang Konglai murmured. With the barriers between the four great star domains now open, as long as there's a guiding route, one can freely travel between them. This person must be from another star domain. As they gradually moved away, Zhang Konglai turned around, casting a distant glance at the man in white, who had remained silent and had yet to leave. A frown appeared on his face. This person, there's something strangely familiar about him. Wang Lin looked at the group of cultivators ahead, his gaze lingering on Zhang Konglai. A look of reminiscence filled his eyes. The man's face had aged slightly since their last encounter, but it reminded him of the time in the Thunder Pool. Back then, Zhang Konglai's cultivation was slightly higher than his own, yet after Wang Lin had borrowed the power of thunder and gained a hint of the origin, Zhang Konglai had been so startled by Wang Lin's gaze that he broke out in cold sweat and bowed to Wang Lin as his master. He didn't even hear the words of the cultivators around him. Staring at the man's fading figure, that familiar feeling lingered in his heart, refusing to dissipate. It's so familiar, Zhang Konglai murmured, turning around and flying forward with the other cultivators, though his mind was still occupied, trying to figure out where that feeling was coming from. In his mind, the vague image of the man in white kept surfacing, and the sight of the white hair swinging as he turned was vividly imprinted in his mind. I've definitely met this person. Zhang Konglai rubbed his forehead, but just then, his hands suddenly froze. The blurry image of the man in white in his mind began to slowly overlap with someone deeply ingrained in his memories. As they merged completely, a thunderous crash erupted in his mind, like 10,000 thunderbolts exploding at once, causing his body to tremble violently. A look of disbelief filled his eyes. Without thinking, he turned around, his face immediately flushing. His eyes widened, and in a brief moment of disorientation, he could hear his heart pounding loudly in his chest. It's him. Without hesitation, Zhang Konglai took a giant step forward, his speed like thunder, and in an instant, he rushed towards the direction Wang Lin had gone. His sudden action left the nearly 100 cultivators around him in stunned silence. Zhang Konglai unleashed all of his speed, rumbling through the endless starry sky, but ahead of him, the starry sea stretched on, and there was no sign of Wang Lin. After a long while, Zhang Konglai came to a halt, a bitter expression on his face. Why didn't you call out to me? He stood there for a long time, lost in thought. Time passed, and Zhang Konglai, in silence, bowed towards the distant starry sky. With a soft sigh, he turned and left. In the depths of the Luotian star domain, there was a vast, barren expanse of starry sky, where the cultivation stars were sparse and lacking in spiritual energy. Among them was a small cultivation star that emitted a soft, gentle glow as it slowly rotated in the void. This was Qingling star. There were cultivators here, but most of them were of low cultivation, with only 3 infants undergoing the infant metamorphosis. At the peak of the highest mountain on Qingling star, these 3 infant cultivators stood respectfully before an elderly man. The old man wore a scholarly robe, and he didn't appear to be a cultivator, but rather a master of the secular world's scholarly teachings. He sat calmly on a stone platform at the peak of the mountain. He had sat here for over 800 years. Everything was due to a single sentence from his master. In my lifetime, I have never taken a disciple. Your path and mine are fated, so I will accept you as a registered disciple. This mountain, Hengyun Mountain, shall be your place of temporary cultivation. I will not teach you any Taoist arts or divine techniques, but I will offer you one thing, an opportunity for enlightenment. The old man slowly opened his eyes, not looking at the 3 infant cultivators before him, but instead gazing quietly at the distant clouds and sunset. You 3 may leave now. This star belongs to my master. Until my master returns, no one can take anything from this star, no grass, tree, mountain, or water. But we're preparing for war, and since the Thunder Immortal Palace has issued an immortal decree, they'll be arriving to take the star within 3 days. One of the 3 infant metamorphosis cultivators was speaking anxiously when he was silenced by a single glance from the old man seated on the stone platform. Just that single glance sent a jolt through the cultivator's soul, making him fall silent immediately. The 3 of them respectfully cupped their fists, bowed, and departed. The old man said nothing. He gazed silently at the layers of clouds in the sky. After a long time, distant thunder rumbled faintly across the heavens. Soon after, gusts of wind howled, rolling black clouds across the firmament, blotting out the sun and sky. The sound of rushing rain came from afar, a torrential downpour that gradually swept across the land, wrapping the world in its curtain of water. Heavy rain fell upon the mountain peak, drumming endlessly against the stone. The world blurred beneath the rain's veil. The wind grew fierce, sweeping the rain across the old man, soaking his robes. But fortunately, the wind stirred the curtain of rain, sweeping away that discord, and instead gave rise to a grand symphony of mountain, sky, and storm. Amid wind and rain, atop Hengyun Mountain, a white-robed figure appeared without a sound. He stood silently at the summit, listening to the rain, to the wind, watching the old man on the stone platform, who trembled with emotion. He made no effort to shield himself from the downpour. Unlike those years ago, when he had awakened his understanding and refused even a drop of rain to touch him, Wang Lin now simply stood there, unmoving, letting the rain soak his clothes. Its chill seeped into his body, matting his white hair, yet not the slightest trace of dishevelment clung to him. Instead, he seemed one with the mountain, the land, the grass and trees around him. There was a faint smile on Wang Lin's face as he looked at the old man on the stone platform. "Master!" The old man stood, then knelt in his excitement. Rain streamed down his face, merging with tears, impossible to tell apart. After 800 years, Wang Lin had returned to the Azure Spirit Star, to the place where he once pursued the Tao. Here, he found again the registered disciple he had once taken under his wing. To Wang Lin, Xieqing had been but a fleeting figure in his long life. Yet it was Xieqing's presence that had once allowed Wang Lin to complete his conceptual realm. Thus, a karmic bond had formed, stirring Wang Lin's intent to take on a disciple. Even Wang Lin could never have imagined that the disciple born of that faint karmic thread would sit on Hengyun Mountain of Azure Spirit Star for 800 years. For 8 centuries, Xieqing had meditated on the conceptual realm Wang Lin had given him. With the wisdom of a mortal-era literary master, his cultivation advanced at an astonishing pace. But Xieqing had never trained in any technique or divine art. His cultivation path was utterly unlike that of any other cultivator, including Wang Lin. while Wang Lin pursued the fusion of Tao and divine arts, using magical powers to comprehend the great Tao step by step. Xie had completely abandoned divine arts, cultivating only the conceptual realm. Now, Xie physical body was extremely fragile. A single flying sword could take his life. His body was like a spent oil lamp at its end. Yet, his vitality was boundless, and his life force refused to fade. Though physically weak, the insights gained over 8 centuries had propelled his conceptual realm far beyond anything that ordinary cultivators could reach in that time. In terms of conceptual and Daoic insight alone, even glimpse of nirvana cultivators couldn't match him. His understanding now pointed directly to the perfect pure nirvana stage, already touching the edge of cosmic laws. It was a form of cultivation unknown to this world, akin to the ancient god clan's extreme physical refinement. Xie cultivated only the conceptual realm. Within him, there was no essence spirit, no nascent soul. He lacked all the internal spirits that other cultivators possessed. What he had instead was a soul overflowing with boundless vitality. Even Xie himself could not explain why. He knew none of the usual cultivation methods. All he could do was quietly meditate on the insights Wang Lin had once granted him. 800 years of silent comprehension. Soul cultivation, is it? Wang Lin looked at Xie and fell silent. Immortal cultivators dream of becoming immortals, seeking eternal life. Cultivators of truth search for their true selves, to transcend the mundane. Tao cultivators seek to confirm their origin, becoming the Tao itself. And soul cultivators, they fuse the soul with life, holding heaven, earth, sovereign, kin, and master as one. Wang Lin gazed into the falling rain. The drops struck his face, cold, piercing, and he spoke softly. Xie remained kneeling before the stone platform, a trace of confusion and bewilderment on his face. Perhaps the rain had grown too heavy, soaking his clothes until they clung uncomfortably to his body. In his daze, with the imprint of his right hand, the world suddenly changed. The rain on Xun'er Mountain changed direction, as if moved away, falling all around. Wang Lin shook his head and softly said, "You still haven't completely given up all divine powers. Xie, look at this mountain. Has it ever resisted the rain in its growth? Look at the river." But after going through what I did, and when I returned to Luotian, I had a sudden realization. Returning to simplicity means merging yourself into every grass, tree, mountain, and river, freeing yourself from the restrictions of all spirits, becoming one with the heavens and earth. This is what returning to simplicity truly means. Xie body shook, as though he had begun to understand something. Wang Lin raised his right hand and waved it forward. Immediately, Xie minor spell dispersed, and the rain was no longer obstructed. It fell again, drenching Xun'er Mountain. If you see yourself as part of this world, if you transform into the sky, into the earth, the rain, in essence, becomes like your invisible blood. Why stop it? Wind, rain, snow, thunder, all natural things. You are them, and they are you. There is no separation, no obstruction. 800 years, and you still haven't fully realized the fortune I gave you back then. When you can abandon this physical body, forget all the spells you've understood, and remain only as a trace of Tao soul, then you may come to find me. Wang Lin looked at the thoughtful Xie. He raised his right hand, reaching toward the void of the sky. With this grasp, the colors of heaven and earth changed, winds and clouds twisted, and the thick black clouds rumbled. The rain, which had spread across half of the Qingling star, surged as if cheering, sweeping from all directions. In the blink of an eye, this endless rain, like the sea, thundered toward them. On the peak of Xun'er Mountain, it fused together, forming a gigantic rain sword nearly 10,000 feet tall. With a wave of his hand, the rain sword descended from the sky, crashing down and stabbing into the top of Xun'er Mountain, piercing nearly 1/3 of it, with the exposed portion around 6,000 or 7,000 feet high. Even from a distance, the massive sword made of rain could be clearly seen. A vast and overwhelming aura spread out from the rain sword, filling the heavens and earth, and even spreading across the starry sky from Qingling star. In the moment the rain sword formed, Wang Lin's right hand pointed forward. His ancient god star mark at his brow suddenly flickered, sending a surge of ancient god power into the sword, while thunder flame origin flowed from his eyes, merging into the rain sword. At that moment, the simple rain sword contained two perfected origins and Wang Lin's Tao ancient battle heaven momentum. The aura didn't spread widely, but it was powerful enough to shake the entire Luotian. With this sword, few dare to offend this star. Wang Lin's voice was calm, but carried an unquestionable tone. Even a mighty being at the ethereal stage, upon sensing the aura of this sword, would hesitate. Is it worth battling for a cultivation star, especially against a cultivator near the peak of origin? The pressure of Tao Ancient is even more daunting. This sword, when you truly understand, will be the entry gift I give you. Wang Lin glanced at Xie one last time, then turned and walked toward the outer world. His figure gradually blurred, growing distant amidst the falling rain. Xie silently watched Wang Lin leave, kneeling on the ground and bowing 3 times. Today, Hengyun Mountain has rain, dropping from the sky to form a sword. An old friend gradually fades, with the rain sending him off and a disciple kneeling. The grace remains. On Qingling Star, the celestial selected clans had long since moved away, leaving no trace as if they had never been there. Wang Lin had left. He returned to Luotian, with 4 places to visit and 4 tasks to complete. The first task was already finished, and as he walked beneath the brilliant Luotian starry sky, his eyes gradually filled with a hint of coldness and killing intent. Patriarch of the Xiang family. The matter from back then is now at its end. Wang Lin flicked his sleeve, and his figure darted toward the Xiang family cultivation star, where the 7th night art had once taken away all his vitality. In the starry sky, several hours after Wang Lin left, 30 million miles from Qingling Star, a group of dozens of cultivators, led by a middle-aged man in a thunder robe, headed straight for Qingling Star. They were from the Thunder Immortal Palace, on a mission to find a cultivation star that met. The leading middle-aged man, clad in a thunder robe, turned pale and spat out a mouthful of blood as he was blasted backward, tumbling uncontrollably. Behind him, the many cultivators following closely also coughed up blood nearly at the same time, their eyes wide with shock as they staggered back in unison. It was at this very moment, when dozens of these cultivators were stunned and blocked by the sword intent, that atop Hengyun Mountain on Azure Spirit Star, after Wang Lin had left, the sky above the meditating Xie twisted and trembled. Without a sound, a figure silently emerged. It was an old man in a Taoist robe, none other than Lu Fuzi. Unwilling to confront Wang Lin directly, he had chosen to arrive quietly only after sensing the rain-like sword intent and confirming that Wang Lin had left. Hovering in midair, he frowned deeply, remaining silent for a moment before raising his right hand and pointing toward the massive rain sword embedded in the mountain peak. No sound was made, but the instant Lu Fuzi's energy touched the rain sword from a distance, his body trembled. His eyes widened with astonishment. This aura, it's similar to that of the ancient gods, yet entirely different. Under the